I'm Jason Aponte. That is Rob Stats Guerrera to my right. We have a lot to talk about as the 49ers have a game on Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys do not. What we're going to do is we're going to break that down and stick with us real quick. Welcome, everybody. Let's go, Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. I'm Jason Aponte, joined by Rob Stats Guerrera. Rob, what's up with you, man?
What's going on, Jason? Thanks for the collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I had to wear my Mr. Burns sweater, just because you had to get the whole idea of do I dare live the American dream and kill my boss? And real quick, real quick before we get into everything, I want to say Rob has been nothing but a friend, someone that I look up to in this whole thing. Obviously, you guys know the situation with what's going on. I just want to say that I and many others stand with Rob, stand with him, and I want you guys to make sure that you know that this is streaming on my channel, Rob's channel. You need to subscribe to Rob's channel. Most of you have already have. I mean, this guy's already got close to 3,000 subs on his YouTube, but Rob is an incredible talent, someone that is someone that I look up to, but also someone that I consider a friend and someone that we're going to talk about this 49ers game with. So I just wanted to make sure we started with that.
Well, that's very kind of you. I feel all the same about you, and hopefully we get to work together again in the future.
Absolutely. And it's always going to be like that. So basically what I wanted to let you guys know is this is being streamed on my channel, Rob's channel. What you want to do is you want to jump over to both, subscribe to both, hit like on both videos, hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell on both channels because Rob does instant reactions right after the game, all of those things. Rob's not going anywhere and you guys know that the content he provides, but I am going to allow Rob to just go like handle this thing, man. Like I'd love to sit back and enjoy what you do and just be the guy who sits back because you are the guy that everybody's here to see right now.
Well, I don't know about that, but I got to start with something, and you can back me up on this, but I got to get it off my chest right away. I try and be as objective as possible when I look at the 49ers, and I try to be not just a homer, someone that really looks at things and breaks it down.
Yep.
I've been very respectful of the Eagles. I've been on multiple shows. I've done multiple podcasts. Very respected. I'm tired. I'm tired of being respectful.
Go off, Rob.
Like
go off.
just look. The Eagles have the better team. Great. So what? We don't have to beat them 100 times. Okay, we got to beat them once on Sunday. And I saw the Niners have the better team in 2012, and they lost the Super Bowl to the Ravens, and they were the better team in 2019, and they lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. Like, I'm tired of genuflecting at the altar of the Eagles. I get it. They're a good team. You know what? So are the 49ers. Let's go out, and may the best team win. I'm tired of being nervous about this game.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I think a lot of the respect that we've shown the Eagles is being tied into being nervous. And I don't think that that's true. I think that our confidence against Seattle and Dallas has to do with what we know this team is over those teams. This week, this is more about respect, understanding. But yes, Rob, I do feel similar frustrations in terms of there's a gap. This is a much better team. Okay, I have been on record many times saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are probably the most complete team compared to the 49ers in the NFC. There's a reason they were one, the Niners were two, and there's a reason that these are the two teams that are still standing. But there's some sort of discrepancy. It's like the Philadelphia fucking Eagles are playing Bishop Sycamore at this point, and it's like what are we even doing here at this point? Like, no, like why should the 49ers even show up to the Lincoln Field? Why should the 49ers even play this game? Because it's already done. This is my thing. I have a take that a lot of 49er fans are not going to like. I'm going to write about it later on Niners Nation when we talk about like what is a successful season. The 49ers have nothing to be ashamed about regardless of this outcome, even though I am picking the 49ers to win this game. But at the same time, where has this like idea that the 49ers are playing the 85 Bears, the 92 NFC Pro Bowl team. Why all of a sudden has this become the discussion, Rob? And I really don't get that portion. 49er fans have been largely respectful, largely. Eagles fans and Eagles pundits have not shown the same sort of grace in any way, Rob. I just want to get your take on that.
Who would have imagined Eagles fans would be disrespectful? I can't imagine it. I think it's because it's the same thing we saw with Dallas last week, right? Dallas kicked the tar out of the Buccaneers, and everybody was like, here comes big bad Dallas. And then the 49ers beat them. And I think kind of the same thing with the Eagles, right? Oh, Jalen Hurts is back. Oh, they whooped up on the Giants, the woeful Giants, right? And they look great in that game. Yes, they did. But you know what? You ain't playing the Giants this week. That's all I got to say. And I just, yeah, I'm when I make like a big decision in life, usually what I do is I do nothing except worry about it for a week. I'm like paralyzed with worry. And then I get to a point where I'm just so mad at myself for not doing anything for a week that I get over that and I just make a decision and plow ahead and go forward. That's where I am with this game. I'm done worrying about it. I am done. Let's kick it off right now, and let's see the Eagles go out and out physical the 49ers. Let's see that offensive line push the 49ers defensive line around. Let's see Jalen Hurts chucking the ball deep down the field. And I get all that stuff that they're good. I'm just tired of worrying about it right now. They got to actually do it. We can talk about it, but they still have to actually do it.
And my thing is this, Rob. The 49ers and Eagles are probably the unstoppable force meets the immovable object. And they're in many ways mirror each other. And I've spent the entire week going through this game, going through the personnel, going through who's their actual personnel now. How have they been playing lately, right? Because everybody can look at season-long stats and surmise whatever it is that they want, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can look at season-long stats and say, well, they give it up on the run. Well, what's been happening the last few weeks? I think that's really what's more a bigger indication of what's going on, especially when you consider who's on the field. The Eagles are largely healthy. They are largely healthy. I mean, out of the 22 starters, they're bringing back 21. And the only other person that's kind of in flux right now is Avonte Maddox, who plays slot corner for them in nickel. Does that mean that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson comes down and plays a little bit there? But this game really feels evenly matched, right? There's no real right or wrong way to go about this. It's just I feel more frustrated with the idea that all of a sudden, because people have come to this grand conclusion, which, Rob, like this is my grand conclusion here. This is something that the national media somehow has just figured out, right? All of a sudden, now the national media has figured out that Jalen Hurts somehow is better than Brock Purdy. Well, you know, I've got news for you guys. I've got big news for you guys. The 49ers have a clearer path to winning this game if Brock Purdy doesn't play a good game than the Eagles do if Jalen Hurts don't. Now, listen to me when I say that one more time. I have heard Nick Sirianni literally call Jalen Hurts the Michael Jordan of this offense. Now, Michael Jordan, for the younger folks who, you know, are watching, he wasn't a guy. He was the guy. And if he had an off game, more than likely the Bulls were going to lose. Now, Brock Purdy's not in that regard in any way. So for me, Brock Purdy has a better chance of having an off game and the 49ers winning than Jalen Hurts does him having an off game and the Eagles winning. So when Nick Sirianni says Jalen Hurts is Michael Jordan, he's not saying he's the best player in the league. What he's saying is that's what he means to their offense. Brock Purdy doesn't mean that to their offense. He's more of a point guard than the star guard. Rob, what would you say to that?
I agree. If Jalen Hurts is Michael Jordan, he better be. Because when Pippen was leading the Bulls, they didn't win any damn titles. I'll tell you that. They did come close, to Scottie Pippen's credit. But
and the Knicks finally knocked them out one year.
That's true.
1 year.
I had to get but I was thinking about that. I was literally just thinking about Michael Jordan and the Bulls because I think famously, the Detroit Pistons had the Jordan rules when they played the Bulls in the NBA Finals. And for anybody that doesn't know, the Jordan rules were this. Anytime Michael Jordan drives the lane, you knock him on his ass. Every single time, no matter how many times he does it, when he goes up, no easy baskets, boom, you hit him and he goes down. I think the Niners defense has to do the exact same thing to Jalen Hurts. Anytime there's an option, You force Jalen Hurts to keep the ball, and let's see how that shoulder's feeling. Let's see him have to constantly get hit and tackled by Fred Warner and Aziz and Dre Greenlaw. Or the other thing he does is he looks to avoid contact, to get down, to get out of bounds. That works to the 49ers' favor too. So if I were them, every time there's some sort of option play, I am crashing and I am forcing Jalen Hurts to run the ball. And let's see if he wants to do it in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. Maybe he will. And if he does, credit to him. But I'm not quite sure that he will.
And it's a great point that you bring up, right? And I'm tired of everybody like yelling at the 49ers defense. Well, you can't contain mobile quarterbacks. Well, Jalen Hurts has played 17, 16, 15 other defenses, and they had a tough time controlling him as well, too. Right? Like, I don't understand this whole idea that now all of a sudden the 49ers have this fatal flaw that the NFL has at this point when it comes to guarding quarterbacks who can use their legs and who can make things happen. And it's just kind of funny how people have this misconception of, well, Jalen Hurts can move and, well, Brock Purdy's only on his 7th game. There are larger numbers of Jalen Hurts being under pressure and being forced to make quick decisions and how his numbers look than there are with Brock Purdy. And that doesn't necessarily speak to the fact that you can believe that the 49ers offensive line is better than the Eagles offensive line. I think that speaks to the quarterback, right? So it's kind of funny how people have this preconceived notion of, well, Jalen Hurts can move out of the pocket. He can do all of these things. But if you keep constant pressure, and this is always going to be what the 49ers have to do, regardless of who their opponent is going to be this week, 2 weeks down the line, how it goes, how they're going to sustain success. It's just funny to me how people leave that out, Rob. Like how they leave out the fact that when you look at Jalen Hurts under pressure, however that is that you dictate that, meaning him having to make a quick decision or him having to move off his spot and throw the ball, how Brock Purdy in a smaller sample size, let's be completely fair, a smaller sample size, has far better numbers than Jalen Hurts. What would you say about that, Rob?
I would say you're right. Jalen Hurts under pressure has a 65.2 passer rating. Brock Purdy under pressure, 88.1. And yeah, it's a small sample, but it's the biggest sample we have. So that's what I'm going to go off of. So I agree with you. You know, I think that people are treating Jalen Hurts like he's like a known quantity when he's really not. Now, he's more known than Brock Purdy, but I'm barely less known than Brock Purdy, and I have 0 starts.
Well, Brock Purdy started how many more games than you? 7?
Right. Like he has a week's worth of starts over me. So, yeah, I think that we're kind of giving Jalen Hurts a little bit of credit. And here's another thing, too. You know, a big thing with Brock that we talked about, and especially we were all happy after the Raiders game because they were losing, right? We didn't know what's Brock going to do when they're losing. Well, no team has taken less snaps in the second half when trailing than the Philadelphia Eagles this year. They're used to being ahead. So what happens if, I know it's hard for some to believe, but maybe, you know, God comes down from the heavens and grants the 49ers a couple touchdowns before Philly gets rolling. And what
How can that happen, Rob? How can the 49ers, I don't know how are the 49ers going to score points against this amazing defense that nobody's ever scored points against? You know, by the way, the Dallas Cowboys put up 40, but go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens if the Niners have a double-digit lead in the second half? Are we sure that Jalen Hurts is going to be good and there's going to be no fear whatsoever and he's going to be able to handle everything? I don't know. What if that Philly crowd gets a little ticked off and you know what, starts to turn on the Eagles a little bit? I'm just saying we are not looking at this. I feel like people are starting with the conclusion that the Eagles are going to win and working backwards.
15 minutes in. 156 people in here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to both channels. Make sure that you're following Rob on all platforms. We are talking this Philly NFC Championship game, and I mean a game that shouldn't be played right now. Depending on who you ask at this point, right? Like it's already over. I think Rob brings up a really good point, and I want to point to a little bit of the argument that has been thrown the 49ers way in terms of strength of schedule, and it's kind of funny to me, Rob. The 49ers get a lot of, well, you almost lost to the Raiders. Well, you almost lost to this team. Well, you almost lost to that team. Well, you know what? I can play that game too. The Philadelphia Eagles almost lost to the Indianapolis Colts. They almost lost to the Houston Texans. Do you know what almost losses are, Rob? Do you know what they're classified as?
That'd be wins?
Wins. So it's funny to me how wins that the 49ers have that are deemed almost losses are held against them, but nobody else gives a shit about the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football against Davis Mills almost lost to the Houston Texans, almost lost to the Indianapolis Colts, almost lost. I don't care about almost losses. You know what teams that almost win say? Not almost lose, almost win say? We had them. We were this close. You know what those teams are generally deemed as? Bad teams. Bad teams will make excuses for why they didn't win the games. Good teams find ways to win those games and then move on. I'm tired of hearing about almost losses, Rob. I really am. I don't give a shit if this team was almost on the ropes against the Raiders, almost on the ropes against this team. They have won 12 straight games. I don't care if this is Division 1, 2, 3 football, high school football, NFL football. That's not easy. And I'm tired of hearing about how the 49ers have almost lost, while we can't bring up the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles have almost lost to the Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, two of the worst teams in entire football. Like, I don't understand the discussion. I really don't.
I hope the 49ers almost lose on Sunday. Right?
I mean,
what are we talking about here? The Niners come into the conference championship game with the fifth longest winning streak in NFL history. Yet they are being treated like they backed into the playoffs with a losing record. Like, no, there are no style points now, okay? Almost losing is fine because, like you said, that means you win. If you almost lose the NFC championship game, and the Chiefs almost lost the Super Bowl to the 49ers, but they didn't. So, yeah, I agree with you. We got to stop caring about that.
Everyone has to stop bringing that stuff up. At this point, there is the number 1 and number 2 team based on record. And no matter how you rank them, if you want to put the 49ers number 1 and you want to put the Eagles number 2, the number 1 and number 2 teams in the conference are going to meet on Sunday. That's not something that's typical. Like, let's even take a look at last year. The number 1 team last year was knocked off in the divisional round by the San Francisco 49ers. It wasn't 1 and 2 that made it. 1 and 2 very rarely make it to this position. This is kind of how it's played out. Rob, I wrote an article on Niners Nation that a lot of people didn't really agree with or necessarily be warm to, but I am going to take a victory lap real quick. Can I do that real fast? Just real quick. Okay.
Sure.
My contention was the San Francisco 49ers not making the NFC Championship game would be a massive disappointment and failure, right? In my opinion, the only reason that would have been a failure was looking at the rest of the NFC. I don't care about Dallas, Tampa Bay, Seattle, the New York Giants, Minnesota. I didn't care about any of them. You know why? The 49ers were far superior. That is why the NFC Championship, with the 49ers ending in the 2nd seed and the Philadelphia Eagles ending number 1, would have been in this direction. Now, regardless of what happens in this game, this season is not a failure for the 49ers, in my opinion. No, in no way. But they needed to make this game for me to make. If they would have lost to Dallas last week, I would have said this season's a failure because they are far superior to the Dallas Cowboys. But this was my point. When I said this, people were saying, well, why are you being so doom and gloomed? Well, this is house money. No. Now it's house money. Now it's time to get greedy. Now it's house money. Now it's time to get greedy. Now you win this game and you move on, and 2 weeks later, you have a chance to do it all. Now it's house money. It was to get to this game that would have been a massive disappointment, in my opinion. And a lot of people disagree with me. Right now, I'm looking good. And, for the one time, I'm going to make sure that I look good. Rob, what do you think about that?
I mean, how many teams get to 3 NFC championship games in 4 years?
I mean,
apparently the Chiefs every year, those jerks, but it doesn't happen that often. The Dallas Cowboys have not been to an NFC championship game since 1995. Okay. And we have been to 3 in 4 years. Not only that, we have been to 6 of the last 12 with 4 different quarterbacks.
Rob, let me ask you a question. As a 49er fan, right? I had to sit there and look at that stat and kind of put it in my mind and think, like, wait, is this real? Like, do I really do I really feel this? And it's so insane that there have been two eras of 49er football in 12 years that have literally led to this, while there's this huge gap in the middle of just nothing. Like absolutely nothing. And still, this franchise, through 12 years, through all the things that we say about the front office, through all the things that we say about the moves that they've made, somehow find themselves on the precipice of at least making the Super Bowl. I didn't wrap my brain around it the proper way in the beginning, Rob. I don't know if that's just me or you.
No, this whole situation is weird. Not only is this the weirdest 49ers season of my 38 years on this planet, but just the 49ers haven't lost before the NFC Championship game since 2002. So every time they get to the playoffs since then, they play for the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen, especially in a year when you lose two quarterbacks and you're starting your third string, seventh round rookie.
Rob, I am having a hard time quantifying that stat. Like that stat right there, when it came up about 6 out of 12, I'm like, that means out of the 12 years, half of them have led to the being the 49ers being. So the NFC, so basically this is what it is. The 49ers either are a team that doesn't make the playoffs or are terrible, or they make the playoffs and they are literally on the doorstep of making the Super Bowl. I don't know if you can name a bigger boom or bust team in that time or in any time, really. Like, I'm sure we can go back and we could probably find, but it's just, I had a hard time wrapping my mind around that. I just really, really couldn't believe it. And so much has been said about this ownership. So much has been said about the leadership and what's been going on. You've literally had two eras of it with two different head coaches and general managers, and somehow this team finds a way to do it. But, Rob, let's get into some of the stuff that the 49ers can do so they can walk away from this unwinnable game. This unwinnable game. Like, this is literally Rocky versus Drago, like, at this point. Like, and if I want to start stealing from, everybody else, it's like right now the national media is Adrian, right? And I don't know if you guys ever seen Rocky 4. Adrian's yelling at Rocky, "You can't win! He's a monster. He's a machine. You can't win. I'm scared. Adrian. You want me to say it? And that's the 49ers. The 49ers are Rocky right now. What are some of the ways that the 49ers can win this game, Rob? And for me that's picking the 49ers, is it just my blind 49ers fandom, or am I watching a team that has done what they've done over a certain amount of weeks?
How the 49ers can win, obviously, number one, you have to take care of the football. That's everybody in every week. But I also think you win by controlling the clock, and not necessarily, what I mean by that is limiting the amount of possessions that the Eagles get in the game, right? If you can dominate and control the clock, then Jalen Hurts and company doesn't get on the field all that much. And you could only score 7 at a time, or I guess 8 if you go for 2. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, no matter how good your drive is, whether you go 99 yards in one play or 99 plays in 1 yard at a time, you're only getting 6 at a time. So limit the number of possessions. So I don't think you're going to see like the Niners trying to go for these huge plays down the field. I think you're going to see a steady dose of the run game, and then you're going to see try to make magic on third down if you have to with Kittle or McCaffrey in the slot. I expect Elijah Mitchell to get the bulk of the carries because I still don't think Christian McCaffrey's doing great. I know he said yesterday that there was zero chance he was missing the game. He'll play, but is he going to be – because don't forget, the last 2 drives of the game against Dallas, he basically didn't play. He would come in on third downs and then he would leave again. So those were must-have, gotta-have-it drives with your playoff life on the line, and he wasn't in there. So he's hurting, I'm sure. So I expect Elijah Mitchell to carry the ball on the ground and CMC to be used more as the receiver.
Okay, I think that the X factor right now is just a little bit of what I've been looking at the Eagles. Right now, the Eagles in base defense, they run 5-2-4, meaning 5 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 4 coverage in the secondary. That means 2 safeties, 2 cornerbacks. But I did want to point out something that I think is a little bit of what the 49ers are going to have to take advantage of on first and second downs if they do get into base downs, because nickel means obviously they're going to bring in another secondary guy. But Kaiser White is a linebacker. He has been targeted the 3rd most on this team with 72 targets, 53 receptions allowed, which is far and away the most on this team. The second most is another linebacker, TJ Edwards, who has 71 targets for 47. This is a big George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk game. Whoever it is that they wind up isolating on these linebackers, whoever it is that they wind up finding the matchup for, you expect Philly to come out and expect the run, right? And a lot of people were saying, well, saying Dallas stacked the box is simplistic. No, Dallas stacked the box and they had a very good plan, and they also have the personnel to carry that out. Everyone stacks the box. Seattle stacked the box. They just don't have the personnel to do it. Green Bay can Green Bay can put 11 in the box. If you don't have the personnel to do it, it doesn't matter. Like, you just can't do it. But Dallas did. Philly has given it up a bit on the run, right? And a lot of that in the middle kind of is conflated with Jordan Davis's injury and how he was missed out of this game. But I still think that there's an opportunity for the 49ers on first and second down, when everybody expects them to just run the ball, to take advantage of these linebackers, in which I just said, and also move Deebo into the slot. Get him on one of these linebackers. Get George Kittle out here on the slot. Move Christian McCaffrey into that slot. That depth 21 personnel. I do think this is a big game for the passing game on early downs. And if you're able to have this Eagles defense on their heels and start to look for the pass, then you start to bludgeon them with the run, however it is, Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey. I do think that there's a little bit more passing that you see this week. You're going to have to do it on the road, and I do think that you're going to have to back them off just a bit. What do you think about that?
I think that's where Kyle Shanahan wants to live anyway. 80% of Brock's passing yards last week came on in-breaking routes. We know that Kyle likes to live in the middle of the field, and if he smells blood in the water and senses a weakness, he will press until it hurts. And he's going to target those Eagles linebackers 1,000%. He'll move people around to clear out space and make sure that he's putting one of them in an absolute blender. And he'll run the same play out of 3, 4, 5 different formations. He doesn't care. He'll spam it. He'll go Madden on you and just keep doing it over and over again until you stop it. So I think you're right. And I think that's where he has to attack, because you don't want to go towards the strength of that Eagles defense, which I do think is the secondary with Bradbury and with Darius Slay.
Yeah, and it's Bradbury and Slay, right? And again, it kind of like, to switch this conversation over to the defense now, 27 minutes in, we've got over 300 people in here. Make sure that you like this. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to both channels. Make sure you subscribe to Rob's channel, man. Again, you guys obviously have. Make sure you're over there and you're doing both and you're setting notifications up. We have a lot to talk about. I don't suspect this is the last time we're talking 49ers football, because I do have the 49ers moving on to Glendale, by the way, and I'm going to keep saying that. But this is the perfect place to transition to the defense, and I think you said something that's really great. With Philadelphia, you don't want to challenge James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Like, why would you go at those guys? Obviously, they're going to be the most targeted because they're the ones who cover wide receivers. But that's not really your focal point over 18 games, right? Like, they have the most because they are facing wide receivers. I think we kind of transition this to the San Francisco defense. You're not going to try Fred Warner. You're not going to try Dre Greenlaw. You're not going to try Mooney Ward. So now this game kind of transitions to Diamado Lenore, Tashawn Gibson, Talanoa Hufanga. And I do want to say this, I wrote in my article about the X factors in this game, Diamado Lenore. And so much of cornerback has to do with what's up here and what's going on up here. And he has back-to-back weeks of interceptions. If I know there's a lot of talk about taking away stats and, what they would normally look like right now on 49ers Twitter. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. But if you take away the one catch from CeeDee Lamb, Diamado Lenore gave up 17 yards and he has an interception, right? If Diamado Lenore can somehow continue his good play, solid play against, again, Mooney Ward's not going to move. That's not how they move. They're not playing man. They're going to play they're going to play a ton of cover 3. I guarantee you the 49ers are playing a ton of cover 3 right now, especially with the way that Jalen Hurts struggles against cover 3. The numbers are out there. I think it was a PFF guy who put all those numbers out there. And it does help because there's a way to shade people for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But Diamado Lenore is kind of the key here. If he's able to do his job and give a little bit more than he's been giving all the season and just follow up what he's been doing, on top of the fact that Mooney Ward went right back to being clamps last week, Rob, we're talking about a defense now that, like, where are the holes here at this point? How can you isolate Tashawn Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga if these guys are playing as well?
I kind of agree with you. And we have seen number one wide receivers for the other team go off against the
Mhm.
49ers. Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. We have seen them have fantastic games against the 49ers. It doesn't matter. The Niners still blow teams out when that happens. So the key is going to be making sure that A.J. Brown is the only one that goes off, or Devontae Smith is the only one that goes off. You just can't have both light you up. And so the pressure is going to be on Lenore because I think that they are going to pick on him, as most teams have tried to do. But you're right. He has absolutely responded in these playoffs. He has played as good as you could want him to play. And by the way, that drive where the Cowboys had that big pass to CeeDee Lamb, they didn't do anything after that. They didn't score. So, we got to keep that in mind too. Just because you get the big play doesn't automatically mean you're going to score a touchdown. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Diamador Lenore. Let me ask this question to you because somebody asked it to me before the Cowboys game. I was asked if I could get an A-plus game from anybody on the defense other than Nick Bosa, who would I want it to be? And I picked Talanoa Hufanga, and I think I would still pick him this week because when he is playing his best, he can wreck your offensive game plan. Anticipating the snap count, jumping and blowing up plays in the backfield, tipping balls or intercepting balls himself. If you get A-plus Hufanga, like early season Hufanga, I think that could be the difference in the game. So I ask you, A-plus game from any defender not named Nick Bosa, who are you picking?
I would actually, I love what you said about Hufanga because this game he was incredible, man. Like I hate the comparisons to Troy Polamalu, but how could you not look at what he was doing, running up to the line and saying that's Troy Polamalu, right? For me, it's Diamador Lenore. It really would be. I mean, to the idea to have a guy who, even if Mooney Ward has a B plus B game, is still better than most people's, cornerback one. To have
Yep.
that with him, especially with these, these weapons that they have, it would be Lenore, man. It really would. I would give it to him because then that means not only one, are you doing something that is usually in reverse, meaning if he can hold AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, whoever for a little while longer, and Jalen Hurts has to hold that ball, that means Nick Bosa, Charles Menehu, all those guys can get a chance to get to the quarterback. And usually, conversely, it's the other way around. Like it's usually the
Yeah.
pass rush that has to do that for you. So it would be Diamador Lenore. I think when you ask that question, I think it goes down to personnel and who you're facing. Now facing the Eagles, I love that. I love that answer about Talanoa Hufanga because he's been great in the box and being able to do those things. By the way, the 49ers are probably one of the best teams with a light box, being able to stop the run because they have cornerbacks who can actually tackle. They have safeties who can actually tackle. But if Diamador Lenore can lock down one side of the field, and now you start to look over at Mooney Ward, where do you attack? And now you are starting to put Jalen Hurts in a position where he has to not look at one because for a large part of the season, he's been a one read guy. Like he can't look at one and say that's the throw. It would have to be Diamador Lenore. I would love to see him try to get off the ball and nickel in three wide receiver positions, throw to Quez Watkins and Dallas. I love Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert's a great player, but I would rather let Dallas Goedert try to beat us than AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. No disrespect in any way.
Yeah, and this just in, Dallas Goedert is not better than George Kittle.
Get the
sorry,
fuck out of
Eagle
here.
fans.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, man. What are we doing here at this point? Like, okay, look, it's fair to be confident in your guys. Dallas Goedert is a guy that, again, in 2-3 years, we're going to be talking about as a 1-2 guy, right? Like it will. Like Travis Kelce can't play forever. George Kittle can't play forever, right? Like this is going to be eventually a discussion. How dare you guys disrespectfully talk about him being better than a guy who not only was the difference maker this past week, but has been a guy that has set records in this league. It's too early. It's too early. You can say that you can see it coming, but to say that right now, I'm sorry, Rob, I didn't mean to cut you off, but come on, man. Are you kidding me?
No, I don't get it. Like we always do that, right? Like we have to award people stuff. We can't just say Dallas Goedert is a really good tight end. He's got to be the best tight end playing in the game this weekend. Like, no, sorry. George Kittle has finally started to score touchdowns this year. Okay. Those tend to matter a little bit. He has 11 touchdowns. Dallas Goedert has 3. They have basically the same amount of receiving yards. And oh, by the way, George Kittle blocks like a left tackle. Like, no, sorry, Dallas Goedert. You're good. You're just not George Kittle. And there's no shame in that either, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you real quick, and we don't have to spend too much time on this, Rob. The Charles Menehu situation. A lot of people have really like jumped into conclusions or however they want to feel about it. I think my stance, real quick, I've said it throughout the week, is you can condemn domestic violence while also saying you are waiting for all the facts to come out and you need to figure out everything as well. It seems like the 49ers are taking that same position this week. What do you think, Rob?
My thing is, why don't we just err on the side of caution, sit a Menahu this week, throw Drake Jackson in there, and then we'll figure it out. And when the legal process plays itself out, it'll play itself out. Great. What's the worst thing that happens? Charles Menahu doesn't get to play in a football game?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that sucks for you, but tough. Like that's the situation that we are now in.
Mhm.
So I kind of didn't love Kyle Shanahan's tone when he was talking
Okay.
about it this week.
Mhm.
Like he seemed kind of like dismissive, like, oh, we're not going to kick him off the team. Like no one's asking you that, Kyle. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was very weird because I'm just tired of NFL teams saying, oh, well, we investigated it. We did our due diligence. They always say that phrase, due diligence. And
Oh,
we
well, the
feel
49ers
confident.
49ers in due diligence, like handshake
Yeah.
emoji, right?
It's like, spare me with that. So my thing is just sit him out, figure out what happened. Let's let everything play out. And then once we know what happened, we can decide from there. But to me, I don't like the message of, well, we're playing them until we're playing them. And then if we're forced to stop playing them, then okay, we won't.
Okay. I mean, and I think that's fair. I honestly I think that a lot of people have jumped to conclusions as to what has happened, and I think that that's more my thing than anything. Like I respect that stance 100%. It's just the people that want to condemn Charles Menehu without understanding what's going on, and there's the people that want to be dismissive of what's going on as if it's not a big deal. I hate the whole oh that's not a big deal thing. I really dislike that. I really do dislike that.
I
I want to
agree.
make sure that I'm very clear about the fact that you shouldn't dismiss this, but we shouldn't be too far on the side of just completely condemning him at this point. I do think that the 49ers have afforded themselves at least the benefit of the doubt because of the way that they built their structure around their team, right? You know, we have examples, the Reuben Foster thing. I don't want to bring that up and anything like that, but character's been a big portion of how they built their teams. So at this point, I will give them benefit of the doubt, but I don't disagree with anything that you said necessarily. I really don't. And I do think that you're bringing up good points. I really want
Yeah,
to say that.
if you compare sort of this era of 49ers success with, for example, the last era we saw, the Harbaugh era, those Harbaugh teams had a lot of guys with a lot of off-field issues. You know, Alden Smith, Bruce Miller, Ray McDonald. There's more than that are escaping me at the
What
moment,
was
but
it?
they're
Terrell Brown with the brass knuckles
oh my
in the
god.
yeah. Did you forget that?
I did actually, which is terrible. So there were a lot of instances where we were dealing with Shanahan and Lynch. It's been like two guys pretty much.
Oh, it's
And
Tremaine Brock. I'm sorry. I don't want to say Terrell Brown. I don't want to slander his name. It was Tremaine Brock. I promise.
Tremaine Brock, okay.
Tremaine Brock.
But like we haven't had that with this era of the 49ers, and it's been awesome. Like it's so much easier to root for these guys
Yeah.
when they're, when you hear about a 49er off the field now, it's Eric Armstead being nominated for NFL Man of the Year, or,
Yeah.
you know, Brock Purdy, I don't know, doing some sort of charitable thing or whatever the case may be. It's always not always, but 99% of the time it's been good news.
Mhm. All right, Rob. Let's move on from this real quick. We're almost at 40 minutes. We almost have 400 people in here. Make sure
Let's
that you
go.
like this video, subscribe to both channels, especially Rob's, as he's building a new podcast network. Everything we stand in support with Rob. Vox Media has done a huge disservice to their viewers, everybody, with the move here, and I want to stand here and support my friend and my guy. Let me ask you this: the whole Brock Purdy thing, right? Like everyone is just like, no rookie has ever made the Super Bowl. No rookie has ever done this and that. My question to you, Rob, is why not? Why not? Why not Brock? Why not Brock?
No quarterback had ever won a Super Bowl with two different teams. And then Peyton Manning did it. And then Tom Brady did it. Like this stuff gets broken all the time. So literally all you got to do is win a game. And, Kyle talked about people tried to bring up like, well, you have bad memories of you and big games and losing big games. And he was like, I just look at it like a regular football game. Like all the rules are the same. The dimensions of the field are the same. I know the players involved. Like all that has to happen for Brock Purdy to kind of like break that barrier is he's just got to win one more game. Like it's totally realistic. You know, if you asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said no freaking way. But here we are. We are not at the beginning of the year. We're 60 minutes away. So why the hell not, man? Why the hell not? And the one thing that I kind of like is I think Kyle's going to dial up something. He's going to get them down the field. Where Kyle's offense struggles at times is in the red zone. Sometimes, I don't know if it's play calling. I don't know what the deal is, but the offense just doesn't function as good as it does in the rest of the field. But the one skill that Brock Purdy has complements that problem. It fixes that problem because Brock's elusive. He can evade. He can make plays outside of structure. So that gives me a little bit of hope that even if the Eagles have a good play called and Shanahan doesn't have a good play called, that Brock can still overcome that and get the Niners in the end zone.
And you know what's funny is a lot of people want to say, well, Kyle's keeping this to the chest. Kyle's doing this to keep it, close to the vest, these plays. But I would point to last year's wild card game in which Brandon Ayuk ran a route that he put Trevon Diggs in a blender. That was something that was not run all year. So it doesn't necessarily have to be some sort of play that you're sitting on where it's like the annexation of Puerto Rico, Little Giants, anything like that. For me, it could just be a route that something has not been on film, something that you show out of a formation that you've shown on film and you're running something different. I think that's kind of where I'm with you on this. And Kyle is the master of showing you a personnel, a formation, something that they run something out of, and then showing you something completely out of it. Meaning, like in 2019, this is the always the example that sticks out of my mind. 2019 against Carolina, he runs the formation where he hands off the inside ball to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel takes it to the crib, and that's that 50-yard game. He comes out in the same formation and shows that against New Orleans. New Orleans is keyed in on the run, and it's a toss back to Emmanuel Sanders for a long pass. Do I expect something like that? No. But do I expect some things where Kyle's put things on tape? He's going to show things in different ways, and he's going to show different routes. I think right now, to quote the Water Boy, it's last game of the year. Can't hold anything back, man. like that's literally it.
Wow, Jay, did you come up with that all by yourself? No.
Yes.
I agree with you. I think Kyle's going to have some. If you boil it down, that's the essence of the offense. Make you think we're going to do one thing and we're going to do another thing. And I do give the 49ers a little bit of credit. Last week against Dallas, they came out and they wanted to run outside zone plays. And that was the plan. That's what they were going to do. And it didn't work. And the players went to Kyle and the other coaches at halftime and they were like,
Juszczyk talked about this in the after. Yep.
He said, forget this outside zone. Let's take it to them. Let's go right at them and we'll stuff it down their throat. And in the second half, they ran for 86 yards and their running game was much, much different. I almost wonder if that experience is going to help this week because maybe they make that switch faster in this game, whatever the switch is going to be. If the inside runs aren't working, maybe they switch it up to the outside zone, whatever. But I almost wonder if that's going to help them out. Like, all right, just like last week, we're used to this. Let's not panic and let's go because Kyle's going to, when they run the ball early, Kyle's going to see that. And he's going to say, okay, this is how you're playing me. And then he's going to do exactly what we just talked about. Set you up, make you think one thing is coming, and then know exactly how to learn the rules of your defense and break you down that way.
Kyle has been very much like a boxer. Jab, 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 jab. I'm trying to set you up for the haymaker. And I'm glad that you brought up the Kyle Juszczyk thing because it's two things can be true. I do think that they were unsuccessful in what they were running early on, and the players can recognize that. But also, I do think that it has to do with the team on the other side. That team was trying to tell you all week, we're like that. We're physical. Well, you know what? You might be physical for 30 minutes. You might be physical for 48 minutes. You're not physical for 60. It's not going to happen. So I do think that a bit of what happened was they wore it down. They're not as physical as the 49ers. But I do think a little bit of it has to do with what you talked about because Kyle Juszczyk was very, very open about talking about that. And they said, how do you go about that? Well, some of us go to Kyle. We go to our position coach. They relay that. So, again, Kyle is very calculating, and that's why this team has been very good in the second half this season, right? Kyle, D'Amico, they both kind of gather information in the first half, right? Like they have their script, they have what they think is going to happen. Once they start to see things, they make moves based on that. So I do think it's really good that you brought that up especially because the players were acknowledging that. And then you see what happens. And then there was Steve Weiss. He spoke to Trent Williams, and he said, You guys were running a lot of outside stuff, and you guys started to run the ball like in between the tackles and inside. And Trent like nodded his head, like agreeing immediately. And he was like, yeah, he was like, that was an adjustment we had to make right then. So again, there's a lot of people that right now are still sitting on their hands thinking, well, Kyle Shanahan still has this reputation of big games. By the way, he wasn't the head coach when they lost 28-3. Dan Quinn's defense could have gotten another stop. I don't know another offensive coordinator that continues to get flack for a comeback loss than Kyle Shanahan. He's not the fucking head coach. I'm sorry. But, whatever. You can say whatever you want in the 2019 season. And I think that a little bit of this comes from what happened at the end of the first half in this Dallas game, right? Like you can kind of see Kyle stumbling on the clock management a little bit, just a little bit.
So bad.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. 100%. I agree. Trust me. If I'm going to give the guy props, I'm going to also sit here and tell you when it's not right. It definitely didn't look right. But at the same time, you have to start to understand that guys are going through it, right? For 20 years, Andy Reid was known as a guy who couldn't clock manage, finish the game. Well, Patrick Mahomes shows up all of a sudden, he's got a Super Bowl. You guys forget all that. He may never win another Super Bowl for the rest of his life, by the way. By the way, guys, just for you guys, just for the I want to win multiple Super Bowl crowd, like that's easy, like, and that many people do that. It seems like it's just Tom Brady and everyone else just wins one and they're lucky enough to win that one. But that's a discussion for another day. But Kyle Shanahan at this point right now, I think he does start to feel a little bit different. He does see what he's been, having wrong, like been going wrong in certain spots. And it does start to look a little bit better. That's what I think.
I'm sorry. You made a wonderful, cogent, logical point. I got to call somebody out in the chat. 559 Faithful. Who is this stats guy? He resembles a much older Tony Reale.
Hold on. And Tony Reale was known as Stats Boy.
That's true. First of all, Tony Reale is 44. He's 6 years older than me, okay? I'm younger than Tony Reale. Dude. Damn, man.
Cook, Rob. Let's go.
I know the hairline is in full retreat, okay? But damn, he's 44. He's closer to 50 than I am. I mean, come on.
Cook, Rob. All right. Cook, Rob. All right. So do you want to play this? Do you want to do this on the show since we're doing it back and forth? All right. Who is the elder statesman of this panel between you and I, Rob?
You are.
I am. I'm the guy wearing the Simpsons sweater. I'm the guy with the Batman stuff behind him. Yes, I am. I actually am. And as much as people, believe that I'm whatever age it is, I take it as a compliment. But Rob and I, when we were working together at Niners Nation, we had a discussion and we figured out that I am the elder statesman. And I think it makes Rob feel good. But it doesn't matter. Who cares?
It does. It does make it, because I'm used to be, everybody laughs at me. I'm like the old dude in the room. And then we were having a conversation and you said how old you were. And I was like, wait a minute, you're older than me? Oh, right. Like, finally, somebody that's older than me.
Nobody would have seen that coming. And I think this has a little bit to do with how, I guess, immature I am. How much I try to push myself into the young crowd, right? I still like hip hop and stuff like that. Like I want to talk about all that stuff. Like, it's just funny to me how there is a bit of ageism when it comes to like, oh, this person's old. You know what? I'm not old. I'm in my prime. I'm definitely in my prime. I am definitely in my prime. Right now, I am the smartest I've ever been. And next year, I'll be smarter than that. So that's the best part about it. But back to this game. Rob, 48 minutes in, 400 people in here. Again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to both channels, hit that notification bell on both channels. A lot of great content coming down. As much as Rob is a great friend, he's a better content provider. I am going to put your feet to the fire, Rob. It's time. It is time. Prediction time. Do the San Francisco 49ers move on to Glendale and none of their guys go to Las Vegas for the Pro Bowl?
Oh, that would be so sweet. Unfortunately, I picked the Eagles.
Rob!
I picked the Eagles to make the Super Bowl before the year started. They were my pick. But again, like we've been saying, I don't think it's like indescribable, unbelievable, inconceivable that the 49ers win. I just think that I had a 28-21 Philly. They are at home. They do have a good team, not unbeatable, but it's good. And so that's just where I went. I hope I'm wrong. I have been wrong many times this year. So let that be
Oh,
a great comfort to everyone. My picks
yeah.
are terrible generally. I picked the Ravens to make the Super Bowl in the AFC, so it shows what I know. Clearly, I
Well,
can be
I
wrong.
mean, they could have if their quarterback was healthy.
This is what I think could be the difference in the game, and we kind of talked about it with the head coaching. The one thing I know about Sirianni is he's going to go for it. If it's fourth down, he's going to go for it. He's not always willing to trot out the kicker and try a field goal, a 22-yard field goal in the red zone. Like, he's going to go for it. And in a game where I think the possessions are going to be limited, right? Kind of almost like what we saw in that Atlanta game earlier in the year. Remember against Atlanta? All of a sudden
Yes.
they were down by 2 scores, and we're like, why aren't the 49ers moving faster? They're not going to have
Mhm.
enough time.
Oh, I lost my voice yelling in Atlanta at that game. Yeah.
That's right. I remember that. I think that it could come down to that kind of a situation where you're going to have to be aggressive and go for it because you're just not going to be able to get that many cracks at it. And I just have more confidence in Sirianni to be that aggressive than I do Kyle Shanahan. And I think that could be the difference. That's why I have it just a 1-score game.
All right, Rob, I've got it a 1-score game, but I've got it in favor of the good guys. And I do think
Yes.
this is a 24-21 49ers win. I do think that right now the Eagles are up against something that they haven't seen all year. Spare me beating the Dallas Cowboys. Spare me what you did to the Minnesota Vikings. Spare me what you did to the Green Bay Packers. I don't care. None of those teams are the team that is in front of you. None of those teams are the team that understands what it takes to do this. You're new here. The San Francisco 49ers are not, and many of them are not. Their coach isn't. D'Amico Ryans is ready to go. This is going to come down to 2 things. One, if Brock Purdy takes care of the football in the way that he did in this game, I don't think the 49ers have a chance to really lose this game. They only had 1 turnover. And finally, your Ray McLeod prophecy kind of came. Just stop talking about it, Rob. Just stop talking about it. Just stop talking about it. Just stop talking about it. But as of right now, when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, when you look at where they are now, and I don't give a fuck, A. Tomlin, if the 49ers lost to the Bears. I don't care. I really don't care.
Week 1.
Week 1. I don't care. The 49ers have beaten 12 straight teams. Who gives a shit?
And they're not playing the Bears this week, P.S.
and thank God, right? The fucking the 3-13 Bears. Oh my God! Like let's never face them again. That was the 1 out of 100 times that they would have won that game. For me, right now, the 49ers have too much going for them. They know what's in front of them. They've been here. They're battle-tested. The Eagles haven't necessarily been as battle-tested. They face common opponents. They haven't done as well. I mean, they lost to the goddamn New Orleans Saints. I don't care who the quarterback was, Gardner Minshew, Jalen Hurts. I don't care who it is. The 49ers beat the New Orleans Saints with Jimmy Garoppolo, who is essentially their backup quarterback, by the way, if you want to get technical and you want to be funny about it, right? So for me, I am going to stick with what I've been saying. The San Francisco 49ers find a way to win this game, but this is going to be the knockdown, drag-out, heavyweight game that has essentially been in front of them this entire time, but they just haven't had the opponent to make it happen. This is the Philly game that everybody is looking for. Again, this is Rocky Drago, except Philly's not Rocky. They're Drago. The Niners are Rocky, and they find a way to win this one. And they find, I don't know who Philly beat that would be Apollo to make Rocky, be so revengeful. But I do have the 49ers winning this game because everybody's writing them off. The 49ers relish this role of being the underdogs.
And just like in Rocky 4, the Niners are going to turn the crowd to their favor. Somehow all the peasants in Russia got tickets to the biggest fight in the century. I don't understand that at all, but okay. Let's see him turn the crowd against it. If the Eagles come out and struggle a little bit, I really think that crowd is going to get dicey. The Niners are going to be giving it to them too. If they hit a couple of big plays, Debo, or a big turnover, they're going to do the photo celebration. They'll run all the way down the field. They'll do all of that. And I do think that having playoff experience does matter. Like you said, I know people are getting on you in the chat about, the Niners are tested. Yeah, they are. They've been in this spot before. Last time I saw Jalen Hurts in the national championship, they benched his ass and put Tua in there to finish the game off.
And just because you beat the New York Giants the way that you did, don't forget what we saw when Jalen Hurts played against the Tampa Bay Bucks, 2 years before that, where he was extremely poor. Now, Jalen Hurts is not that guy, but don't tell me that that's not in the range of possibilities just because you ran down the Giants' throat. The Giants are just happy to be there. The 49ers aren't just happy to be here. They are looking, to continue things, and that. That's why Eagles fans are puffing out their chest and they're trying to like talk, like tough. Like they realize what's in front of them, Rob.
Look, I remember Philadelphia having a long history of bad playoff losses. That's part of the reason Andy Reid is not in Philadelphia anymore.
Andy Reid. Again, Andy Reid has one Super Bowl win in his entire career, but he made 4 straight NFC championship games with the Eagles. Not to say that has anything to do with this, but I think that goes back to the point about multiple Super Bowl wins. Andy Reid has won. Mike Tomlin has won. Mike McCarthy has won. So that makes him a really good coach. John Harbaugh has won. Everybody just gets one. That's how hard this league is. It's a year-to-year league. And right now, the 49ers just have too much going for them right now at this point, even with Brock Purdy as the third quarterback. But the Eagles haven't played anybody like the 49ers. They just haven't. And in the same way, the 49ers have not played anybody like the Eagles. That's what makes this game so interesting and so fun.
I wish we could kick it off right now. Like, let's just go, please. The wait is killing me.
Yep. All right. So I am Jason Aponte. That is Rob Stats Guerrero. Rob, we have 415 people in here. I think this is the best time to end it, put a button on it. Tell everybody where they can follow you and what's going on with you as you continue your journey right now.
So right now, trying to do independent pod because there's no way I was going to abandon people right when the Niners are about to make the Super Bowl. So you can download the pod on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or a bunch of other places. Search Gold Standard 49ers. It pops right up. Please, please, please subscribe. Leave us ratings and reviews. And we're also putting all the pods up on my YouTube channel at Stats on Fire. Going to try and lean on some people here to get some big guests for you next week. So we'll have a ton of content on the YouTube side, ton of content, obviously, on the podcast side. And please like and subscribe. Help me out. I would really, really appreciate it.
Rob, again, as much as I said that you're an amazing friend, you're an even better content provider. And, again, I stand with you. I stand with the way that you were treated. I don't agree with it at all. And I want to help in any way. But I want you guys to understand that the thing that Rob and I are here to do is to give opinions. Opinions can be disagreed with. Sure, there's opinions that are objectively wrong, right? Like someone can get on here. So there's someone that can get on here and say that, right, like Ryan Leaf is a better quarterback than Justin Herbert. And you would say that's objectively wrong. Like that's an opinion that's objectively wrong. But you come to Rob and I for opinions. They are to be discussed, disagreed with. So whether you disagree with or agree with anything that we have to say, you still cannot deny how much passion and how talented Rob is, man. So I implore you guys to follow him and do all those things. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to both channels on the way out, hit the notification bell because Rob does instant reaction shows just the way that I do at the end of games. This is not the last 49ers game. It is not. I'm telling you right now, it's not. It's not. We're going to go to Glendale. We're going. And we're going to go and we're going to talk about how Disney is going to set up this Disney video, series 30 for 30, whatever it is, about how Mr. Irrelevant found a way to get this done. So, for Rob, for Jason, we're out of here. Go fucking Niners. Enjoy the rest of your week. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.